We think of Batman, we picture gadgets, the Batmobile, and a shadow in the night. But none of that is what makes Batman. What makes Batman is the journey. The years spent forging Bruce Wayne into something more than human, a detective, a warrior, a scholar, and a symbol. Today, we are going deep, tracing the entire evolution of Bruce Wayne's training from the moment he stepped out of Gotham as a teenager to the night he returned as a myth. And this is a story of how hard Batman trained to become Batman through the comics, and the animation and the movies that shaped this legend. Bruce Wayne's training didn't begin the moment he put on the cowl. It began the night his parents were murdered in Crime Alley. The comics, especially The Man Who Falls and Zero Year, describe the trauma as the spark that ignited a lifelong obsession. As a boy, Bruce tried to understand what happened by burying himself in books about justice, law, and criminal psychology. But when he reached his teens, he realized knowledge wasn't enough. Gotham's criminals weren't afraid of ideas, so Bruce left home. In year one, we see hints of this, but it's The Man Who Falls and Legends of the Dark Knight that show us the truth. Bruce Wayne spent the next 15 to 19 years roaming the world, learning every skill he believed he would one day need to wage war on crime. He traveled to the Arctic, to the Himalayas, to the underworld of major cities, always searching for teachers, mentors, and challengers. His life became one long training sequence. Now, let's talk about how he forged his body. The physical transformation of Bruce Wayne is treated almost mythologically in DC's history. Comics like War Games, No Man's Land, and the Batman Files show Bruce pushing his body to the absolute peak and then beyond it. We're told Batman doesn't train like an athlete preparing for competition, he trains like a soldier preparing for war. In many stories, he rises before dawn, running miles across uneven terrain, punishing his lungs until they feel like they're on fire. Training montages from Batman Begins and the Batman draw on this comic lore. The idea that Bruce has built his endurance to the point where he can pursue criminals for hours without slowing down. Comic writers often describe Bruce's regimen as a cycle that almost never stops. He lifts until his hand bleeds, then tapes them and keeps going. He spars until he's bruised from head to toe, then meditates to lower his heart rate. He practices free climbing across cliff faces without safety gear, something we see echoed in Batman Begins and even in The Dark Knight Rises. And by adulthood, Bruce Wayne has turned himself into the peak of human conditioning. In Batman issue number 65, a villain describes him bench pressing a literal 1,000 pounds. And in JLA, Superman admits Bruce's physical discipline is beyond human. Some versions show Bruce pushing himself into exhaustion deliberately. In the animated series Beware the Batman, he trains through the night, testing how his body reacts under stress. He teaches himself to control adrenaline spikes, to breathe through pain, and to keep moving even when his muscles scream to stop. That's not fitness. That was a transformation. And and as Bruce honed his body, he obsessed even harder on sharpening his mind. Comics across the decades, from Detective Comics to the New 52, revealed Bruce traveling to universities under fake names, studying criminology, chemistry, biology, engineering, and psychology. He didn't study to get degrees, he studied to get answers. He learned forensic science from investigators in Paris. He learned criminal behavior by working with the FBI. In The Man Who Falls, we see a teenage Bruce interviewing detectives detectives, absorbing their stories like fuel. In Zero Year, he builds experimental devices and makeshift labs, providing his genius long before the Batcave ever existed. Animated adaptations lean into this as well. In Batman, the animated series, Bruce's knowledge of toxicology, robotics, anatomy, and law is so deep that experts defer to him because he isn't just a fighter, he's a scholar. Canon sources like the Batman Files state Bruce has a near eidetic memory and an IQ of 190 plus. But it's not just the raw intelligence, it's direction. He has focus and purpose, and Bruce doesn't simply learn subjects, he weaponizes them. And when he studies chemistry, it's to analyze poisons like Scarecrow's fear gas. And when he studies mechanics, it's to build tools that help him survive. And when he studies psychology, it's to understand monsters like the Joker. Every bit of knowledge has a purpose. Every class, every book, and every lesson was a brick in the foundation of the Batman. And the most iconic part of Bruce's training that we all love and enjoy is his combat training. And the comics portray it as an odyssey. Bruce doesn't join one school or one monastery. He trains under hundreds of fighters across the continent. Legends of the Dark Knight and Batman slash Superman Annual, they reveal that Bruce sought out the greatest masters in the world, and in most cases, he didn't just learn from them, he surpassed them. He learned stealth and infiltration from Japanese ninjas. In fact, the storyline inspired the League of Shadows training sequences in Batman Begins, where Duckard Batman puts Bruce through relentless psychological and physical tests. In the comics, Bruce studies under the legendary David Kane, one of the world's deadliest assassins, who teaches him the precision needed to understand killing techniques so Bruce can learn how to counter them. Wildcat has taught him boxing. Richard Dragon teaches him the internal discipline behind martial arts. African trackers teach him to read trails like a ghost. Monks in the mountains teach him how to slow his breathing until it's nearly undetectable. Across the multiverse of DC stories, Batman is said to have mastered over 100 forms of martial arts, not because he wanted to be skilled, but because he wanted to be unpredictable. In JLA, Wonder Woman says Bruce fights like no warrior she's ever encountered because his style has no origin. It's everything he's ever learned combined. And in Gotham Knights, it's revealed that Bruce continued to train long after becoming Batman, constantly seeking improvement. This dude was never satisfied, and his training doesn't end when the cape goes on. It never ends. Batman is constantly adapting to the times he's in and getting better. Now, what separates Batman from every other vigilante isn't just the fighting, though. It's the mind behind it. Bruce trains himself to be the world's greatest detective, not as a nickname, but as a profession. In year one, he puts himself through immersive detective tests, stalking criminals without engaging them. In Detective Comics, he learns advanced forensic techniques from chemical analysis to blood spatter interpretation. In Hush and A Long Halloween, we see the full extent of his deductive skill, solving cases that stump entire police forces. Animated stories like The Batman and Justice League Unlimited highlight this as well. Batman is the one who spots the clues, the one who questions the assumptions, the one who sees what no one else does. And his training and observation was intense. He would study human movement for hours, memorizing micro expressions. He spent time undercover with criminals, practicing disguises and learning how to match voices, accents, and speech patterns. Every crime scene became a test, and every mystery became a step towards perfection. But the most brutal part of Bruce's training wasn't the fighting or the studying, it was the conditioning of his will. In Batman RIP, it's revealed that Bruce trained his mind to withstand psychological torture, and even creating a backup personality in case his identity was ever destroyed. In Final Crisis, even the Omega Sanction, a multiverse spanning torture beam, fails to break him. In Nightfall, he fights until his spine is shattered and still refuses to surrender. No teacher taught him this part. This was forged from pain and from loss, and from the vow he made as a child. Bruce trained his will to the point where fear had no hold on him, where pain was information, where exhaustion was irrelevant, where doubt was a luxury he could not afford. And this is what truly made Batman. So, how hard did Bruce Wayne train to become Batman? He trained harder than any real human ever could. He trained his mind until it became a supercomputer. He trained his body until it hit the upper limits of humanity. He trained his soul until pain, fear, and failure became irrelevant. Bruce Wayne didn't just learn skills. He didn't just travel the world. He didn't just study martial arts and criminology. He built a legend piece by piece, sacrifice by sacrifice, year after year. And when he finally returned to Gotham, he wasn't the boy who left. He was Batman. And this is one of the reasons why Batman is such an interesting and a important character. And this is why us as fans, y'all, we get so frustrated sometimes when Batman isn't shown in the way that he should. Because as much as I love a movie like the Batman, even though it's Batman year one, Batman has mastered so much by the time he's Batman year one or year two, whatever year the Batman is in. And I wanted to really cover this because when we see the Batman in the DCU, all of these things have happened to this point. So we expect to see a Batman that is a pro where this thing is easy to him. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Stay crispy and peace out.